Hey everybody, I just wanted to take a minute and make sure that you knew how to view the feedback that I had been leaving you. I know sometimes people, they see the some of the comments that are left on the side, but they don't always look at the document and get the feedback that I left right on the document. So if you go into your assignment, now this is not your class, this is a different class, just as an example. If you go into your assignment, okay, where you submitted your half draft in this case, but in any assignment that you submit, if you go over to your submission details right here, it's going to pop up and it's going to give you your work. Now, depending on how you submitted it, in this case, it was just a PDF document that I dropped in here. It might already pop up for you. If not, you just click this view feedback right here, and it's going to bring up a copy of your document that you just submitted. And then you will see little comments that I have made. So when I hover over it, it'll show you the little line where it goes. And I leave the comments right there where they are. So I'll make and again, there'll be some comments over here with the grade, right? But when you look at the comments, you'll see things like, I'll ask questions like, is this fully developed, or did you answer this question? A couple other things that I might put is WC for word choice. That means, is that the best word that you could possibly use? Is there a stronger word that could be used? I might put awkward, AWK. I might put awkward word, awkward sentence, or just awkward in general, depending on what it is. And that's a place where it's like, wow, that's just not really smooth. There's a better way of saying it. Maybe it's too many words. Maybe, it's like a passive complex sentence that's kind of difficult to follow and stuff. I might make some grammar notes such as this, fragment. And then at the end, you'll see some comments that I make as well. I'll just put some things in general at the very end. But that's where you can see some of the very specific comments that I leave. Now, when you go in and you look at your grade, there'll be some comments there. Those are some generalized things that I'll put at the very end. And you'll be able to see those really quickly and easily. Just a couple other notes as you are working on your half draft, okay, and you're trying to finalize it for the final. So just some general comments that you want to remember. First off, remember that the goal of this was to summarize and react. Here's what I read. Here's what it was about. This is the quick retell of what it was. And this is what I took away from it. This is what I got. This is what I felt. This is what it made me feel like, right? Or this is the thing that really stood out to me. I know that different papers, I wrote some comments on some different things. Sometimes people try to slip into the argument. They want to argue the topic instead of just focusing on the article, okay? Make sure you're focused on the article itself. We're not worried about the topic itself. In your reaction, you might make a comment about, where you stand on the topic, but in general, it's really all about the article. Some other things to really be thinking about. In your introduction, you should have a hook. You should have something to get our attention. A yes/no question may not be the best way to start that, right? Have you ever blank? And the answer is either yes or no. Will the reader continue reading on if they answer in the wrong way? Like, have you ever wanted to do this? You're like, no. Why would a person keep reading, right? So you want questions that really make the audience think. Something more along the lines of like, how did you feel the first time you lost your phone, or something like that? Something that makes the audience think about something, not just yes or no, okay? You should have a very strong thesis statement. That thesis statement should be indicative of what the paper is about. It should be, clear that you are going to be summarizing and reacting, not arguing. You will not say, I'm going to summarize this article. Obviously, you won't be doing that. But you might come up with something that is like, Nicholas Carr in his article clearly explains how technology is impacting the way we think. That would be very indicative of what we were going to be reading, okay? As you get into the paper, I would really suggest now, and this paper is kind of a casual one. It's your reaction. So there's going to be some first person references, but we really want to limit that to the reaction part. In the summary, there really should not be first person. I read this, I saw this, I took away this, right? That should be saved for the reaction part. The summary part is just you retelling that article and what it was in a way that a person who hadn't read it yet would understand what that article is about. So we definitely want to make sure we're focused on that, okay? We want to avoid those first and second person references, at least in the summary. For this paper, because it is a personal reaction, it would be acceptable to have it in that summary part, but we do want to limit it to just there. In our further papers, as we move farther, we won't be using that first person because that won't be part of the assignment. Some other things that I see periodically in there is, paragraphing. When you have a new idea, you start a new paragraph. Now that's going to do a couple things for you. One, it's going to help you see like your organization, like here's how I organize things. This is a logical flow. This makes sense the way I did it. It's also going to help you see, did you fully develop those ideas? If you have a paragraph that's only 1 or 2 sentences long, you might ask yourself like, okay, did I fully explain that? Did I really get that across to my audience? Another thing to think about as you're writing, please think about the way you structure your sentences. Okay. So if you start a sentence with a however, a but, a so, and we want to be careful with starting a sentence with a conjunction, because what are you attaching it to? In particular, we want to be very careful with subordinating conjunctions, things like however, therefore, rather. We want to be careful with those because those can make that sentence a fragment, okay? Because that makes it a dependent clause. So you want to be very careful with that. I know in the real world, there's some contexts in which that would work, but that doesn't always work. And you want to be careful that your audience really understands what you're trying to do. Also, with your sentences, another thing that I kind of say periodically to people is that their sentences get kind of choppy. And like a paragraph or a chunk of the paper will be choppy. That's where you have like several sentences in a row that are short and simple. John walks into the room. He sits down. He opens his book. John likes to read this book. This book is really good. Or sentences that all start in a very similar way. Then he does this. Then he does this. Then he does this. Then he does this. You want to avoid that kind of choppy feel. It's not grammatically incorrect, but it is harder to read. So you think about how to vary that sentence structure using complex sentences. Look for a way to keep it interesting and engaging as you go through. When you are done and you feel like you really have a good sense of the paper and you feel like you've got a really good handle on the message, then that's when we want to go back and we want to start double checking the grammar, the spelling, the punctuation. So you do have, you do want to do it like in steps. You want to do like the message and then you want to do the grammar. And I've got a video that explains some of that as well that I'll post up for you too. When you are working on this, there are a lot of ways that you can get some feedback, and feedback is going to be very beneficial in helping you get this to a point where you feel like you really are going to score well. The first thing to think about is, using the writing center on your local campus, using people that you know and trust, using people that will give you good, honest feedback, right? You can ask me. I just ask that you don't send me a paper and say, hey, what do you think? Because I don't want to pre-grade a paper before I grade the paper. But, if you have very specific questions like, what is how's my introduction look? Is this a good thesis statement? Did I cite this, did I cite this source correctly? Is this an MLA format? So think about that. You also have access to Tutor 24/7 or tutor.com. It's tutor.com. It's a link on the left side of your Ivy Learn. This is a free service. Ivy Tech is paid for 25 hours. I believe it's either 20 or 25 hours of service for you. And you just log in and it's text-based, and you can upload your paper. You'll get some feedback. You tell people what you're supposed to be doing, what you're trying to accomplish, and they go through that paper with you. It's a super awesome service. It's free, again. And I've seen some really good work come out of that. But definitely make sure that you're getting some feedback with some people so that you get your best. Your final product is the best that it can be. Again, everybody, take the comments that I left that you can find from other people, share that paper, work it through with other people to get that final draft due and submit it. Good luck, everybody.